Hello, John F. O'Donnell.
Hello, Andrea Allan.
Look at us, a bunch of cuckoos in the nest together again.
I love it. I'm so excited. I'm so
Cheers.
excited.
We're drinking coffee.
Yes, we are.
Like a bunch of crazy bitches.
Uh-huh.
John and I, sober,
Bipolar.
We're
Living our best life.
we're in our midlife, just really trying to hold on.
Dude, I'm feeling all right.
Good, me too.
I'm in a good place. Going on 5 years.
Wow, has it been 5 years
without a manic or depressed episode? Going on.
That's
November
amazing.
will be 5 years.
Well, so this is just a tee up what we're up to here. If you're listening, you might know us. We've been podcasting for a long time independently, and we've put out some pretty banger episodes of pods before.
Some stuff I'm really proud of.
Yeah.
Stuff where we've been very honest about our struggles with mental health issues.
Yeah.
My diagnosis of bipolar 1 disorder, Andrea's diagnosis of
Bipolar 2 and cyclothymia. I'm like a weird. I sit in a gray zone, which I think it's kind of lesser known. The guy who does Subway Takes actually talked about cyclothymia recently because he has that diagnosis.
Okay.
And so if we want to talk about bipolar like a spectrum, which I think is a helpful way to talk about it, 1 is considered the most severe, 2 in the middle, cyclothymia is the least disruptive, I guess, way that it manifests. But it's just a more rapid cycling of manic and depressive episodes, but less, I guess, severe.
Yeah, but still incredibly challenging.
Sure. I think a lot of people probably live with cyclothymia their whole lives and don't really realize that they have it.
And I think something important to understand is for a long time they would say bipolar 1 was the most severe, but the thinking on that has changed between bipolar 1 and bipolar 2.
Oh, really?
Because bipolar 2 depression can be so painful and extended that they no longer give bipolar 1 that like...
Oh, you lost your crown?
I lost my crown. I lost my crown of severity.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
it's ridiculous.
Wow. I mean...
But I still have this weird, perverse badge of honor because I've had full-blown psychotic mania.
Yeah.
Wow.
I do think that's worse. I would still categorize that as worse.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Depression is horrid. Like, don't get me wrong.
Because the bipolar 1, we have the depressions as well.
That's what I'm saying.
And they're not easy.
What are they talking about over there? What are you talking about there, DSM-5?
I'm just saying what the psychiatric establishment is saying.
Sure.
Oh, P.S. They recently, I don't know how recently, but relatively recently, bipolar disorder has become lowercase. Bipolar disorder is now lowercase to try to take away some of the heaviness of it. But I'm being like old man mental illness over here where I'm like, keep it capitalized.
We're in the big leagues with the schizos.
Yeah, come on. Why are you lowercasing us?
Yeah.
This is a severity. This is a severe, difficult situation.
Yeah.
But then that's the way. So now it's lowercase.
I mean, I think that's the right move.
I think it's the right move too, but it's funny that I was very resistant to it at first.
I think you have to I don't want to use the word victim of God, the word victim is it makes people so upset, and it's like takes away your autonomy in a situation. I think it makes you feel like you are powerless, and it's just like filled with shame. So I think, but maybe a witness to your struggles with like this disorder. I think making your triumphs feel significant is helpful for like healing. So if you really get to be like, this is really severe and it's really hard and I persevere, I think that's like it's a helpful and like helps push people forward. And so I think making it seem like it's not a big deal on the one hand is good because it takes away stigma, but 2, it's not a little b.
It just looks weird
when
I write it out. And I had to change it in all of the different writing and copy that I've been writing about to lowercase. It's just a little sticking point.
You did a little find replace.
Yeah, I did. I had to do some find replace. Yeah. Whatever. But you brought up stigma. I think stigma is so important to talk about. I think for me, the reason that I didn't make my mental health central to my life for so long, the reason that I tried to outrun bipolar disorder for so long was because of stigma, because of all of this shame and embarrassment, and just denial, everything about this illness that I wasn't proactive in being well, and it really cost me a lot.
It still has a very heavy stigma. I think we are like insulated in our bubble of people who are like believe in therapy, talk openly about mental health, like are very open-minded and unjudgmental people, which is a really great environment, and we're lucky to have it, cultivated it. But even like people use the word bipolar as like a descriptor for people who are crazy, quote unquote, like she's so bipolar, or this is so bipolar. Like it's definitely still the brunt of the joke in a lot of ways. And a lot of people are frightened of it, for sure. Like they think bipolar people are violent. Schizophrenia, I think, takes the crown jewel in terms of the most stigmatized, I would say, but they're both pretty high up there.
Yeah. I think, unfortunately, schizophrenia is more stigmatized. Personality disorders like borderline, more stigmatized, less understood. But bipolar disorder, there's still a ton of stigma. And I think sometimes I lose sight of that to an extent because of the community that we're in.
Yeah, sure.
And also because I am so absurdly publicly bipolar.
Yes, you are.
I'm like carrying the torch of being open about it, you know? Which for me is really healing, and it's redemptive, and
what else are you going to talk about?
What else am I? It's like the most intense experience I've had in my life.
Sure, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's amongst the silliest and funniest after the fact, the manic episodes. Yeah. Like, oh, by the way, this podcast is episodic.
Sure. Yeah, by the way.
And yeah, my first episode, I was 19 years old.
That's very young.
Yeah. It is young. But it is around the age 19 to 25.
Interesting.
I believe is around the age when first episodes happen.
Okay.
For people.
That's interesting. I'll put a pin in that because I think I had one as early as like young childhood. But
okay,
go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. But the way that I describe mine is that I was walking through the center of campus
in college.
Yeah. And then, seemingly out of nowhere, the contents of my unconscious mind flooded into my conscious mind.
Well, that's chill.
That's chill, right?
That's pretty cool.
No big deal.
Were you scared?
I was completely overwhelmed by it.
Like, what do you mean by that? Like, can you give an example of like the thoughts, or like if I was a person who had no idea what the difference between unconscious and conscious meant, like, is there like a simplified version of what that would be like?
Okay. I can't really, because it was more of a feeling than it was an ability to really explain.
Was it euphoric?
What that means. No, it was more like, it was more just this intensity.
Yeah,
It just felt like a ton of energy.
Yeah.
Physically and psychologically and certainly emotionally.
Yeah.
Like the way that I describe it is I felt like I was tapping into the oneness of life.
Sure.
The connectivity of life.
You know what that reminds me of?
What?
You know Alex Gray? Do you know that artist Alex Gray?
I'm not sure.
So Alex Gray did a bunch of the Tool album covers.
Oh, yeah. I'm familiar with
so a lot of his art most of it is like very psychedelic looking, but there's a lot of like people, men, whatever, figures that have like a beam of light coming into their head and they're like going like this and like it's like mosaics of colors around them. Like I think people have that experience when they do like DMT. Also, like that's how I picture that. That's how I manifest that in my mind.
Yeah, I don't think it's a singular experience for me, because I hear about other people having these moments of, if you want to call it enlightenment, you want to call it psychosis, it really depends.
And boy, is that a sticky...
It is a sticky thing to try to navigate and figure out. But it felt like I was perceiving all of the energy of the oneness of life.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
And then the way I rationalized it after the fact, I was like, oh, I only have a Western monotheistic framework to understand the world. So my egos become completely unhinged, and I think I'm the second coming.
Of Christ, to be
Of
clear.
Christ.
Got
Of
it.
Christ.
Of Christ.
Who's white?
Because we're still right, obviously. Obviously. Let's not be crazy
Let's
here.
not be crazy. We've seen the pictures.
Yes. So you're like, I understand the nature of the universe and the meaning of life and the interconnectivity of everything, and so obviously I am Christ.
Yeah, my ego just went crazy. I just blame my family for loving me so much.
Your family does seem to love you so
and
much.
convincing me how special I am that I truly had the confidence to think I was the Messiah.
That's also a white man thing.
Is it? I mean, I feel like people of... I like to think that people of all
For sure.
races, ethnicities, nationalities, and colors can think that they're the Messiah.
Well, sure. Yeah, I think a white person thinks. Sorry, I don't want to trigger your years of stand-up comedy being criticized as a white man.
That was really in for a while. It's passed a bit.
I know. I miss it. I'm going to keep it going.
Keep it going.
But
we deserve it.
I guess not even entitlement. Let's pull away a little bit. Superiority, American superiority.
Sure.
Belief in specialness is definitely like a very American white
Absolutely.
belief system. So makes sense that you were cooked in that environment. It's not a criticism of you,
my grandmother loved me a lot.
And good for you. And
shout out Eleanor.
Yeah, shout out Eleanor.
Love you.
So I can see why it's the bipolar, but I also think, it's interesting.
Yeah,
It's an interesting, because I have it too, by the way. I think I'm a special, incredible flower.
Yeah, but maybe we all are.
Whoa.
Huh?
Nice.
Maybe we all are.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then what happened was I just became manic. I became spun out. My thoughts were racing. I'm grandiose in my thinking. All of the symptoms of mania, to the point where I'm, thinking I'm the Messiah.
Are you telling people this? Or are you like lucid enough to be like, let's keep this under wraps till I really have the...
That's a good question. Was I telling people? I believe that I would confide in certain people, and they immediately obviously knew that something was wrong. Like my friend Heather, who I went to college with, my other roommates, who I alienated myself from by bringing unhoused people into the apartment.
You love to be bringing unhoused people in. You are very Christ-like when you go manic.
Yeah. I mean, my manic episodes, I define them as misguided, frustrated idealism.
Sure.
Misguided isn't as in their cray-cray. Frustrated as in I can't express or accomplish what I want to accomplish. Idealistic in the respect that I am, from my perspective, trying to create a better version of the world for people.
Yeah. And I wonder, I feel like most of our friends or people that we know who have bipolar disorder are also people who I consider to be like good people, have like a strong moral compass. Again, we're like lucky in that we surround ourselves and cultivate that type of group. But I'm like, there's got to be people who are morally gray, where this type of like messianic thinking leads to not wanting to love and champion everyone, but to maybe be doing
more nefarious
stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I am the most benevolent of the manic people.
Yeah.
I'm a what is it? I'm a white hat.
I'm listening. Keep going.
There was a weird noise. So I found myself manic in the Hindu studies department of my university.
So were you like, okay, I need to break away from my Western monotheistic confines. Let's go to Eastern philosophy, or you're really just flying by the whatever you feel?
I feel like I was just kind of going where the wind blows.
You sure?
And of course, when I'm manic, it's always like I find myself just finding things that are going to fuel that fire.
You're moving and shaking. I've seen you.
I'm moving and shaking.
Yeah.
I'm interacting with some weird people. I'm doing all sorts of stuff.
Some would say you're the weird person as well.
Some would say that.
Yeah.
So I'm in the Hindu studies department.
Yeah.
I see this poster on the wall, this flyer that is promoting the 50th birthday party of this prominent Hindu woman.
Love it.
You know, I can't remember her name, but I recall that she was a spiritual leader in the community.
Okay.
And in my mind, I'm like, all right, this woman definitely wants me
Sure, why not?
to go to her birthday party.
Yeah.
She's a spiritual leader. I'm a spiritual leader.
Right.
We got to get together. Right? So I borrowed my friend Heather's car.
And shout out to Heather.
And she did not want me to.
I
She knew something was wrong, but I guilt tripped her somehow. I was
I've
like,
fallen prey to your guilt trips.
It's not good. I'm very manipulative. But I remember saying something to the effect of, this is really important to me. You know, if it was the reverse situation, I would do this for you.
God damn it. I'm getting, my eye is twitching thinking of all the little fucking snafus I've gone through with you.
Yikes.
But like, I'm sure, I don't know, and you can tell me about Heather, but I don't know had Heather known about bipolar disorder or what was happening. It's like, it's a very delicate situation to try to de-escalate someone who is manic. Nearly impossible. Something that like trained doctors should do. So like, she doesn't have the tools and, you know, experience to try to stop. And maybe, you know, even a trained doctor probably can't do that. So,
well, I mean, this was my first episode. I didn't even have a diagnosis. I had no idea what was going on, of course. She had no idea what was going on. There was nobody. My family didn't have any idea what was going on. There was no frame of reference at all.
Yeah, right.
You know?
So what is she going to do?
Let me borrow that car.
Yeah, of course she is.
Yeah. So I drive to this birthday party that happens to be taking place inside a Hindu temple.
The Hindu temples are also very cool looking.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah.
You know? And how cool is this? I'm going into the Hindu temple.
Yeah, everything's everything, dude.
I'm overwhelmed with emotion. I run in there.
Yeah.
I'm crying.
Sure.
I'm bawling my eyes out. There's 100 people in there dressed beautifully. I do not recall exactly what I was wearing, but I know I was not dressed beautifully. I was dressed like somebody who's been clinically insane.
Yeah.
For a couple of weeks.
Are you like showering or any of that?
I think maybe here and there, but I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I was on top of my hygiene game.
Did you have the long hair at this point?
I was growing my hair out.
Yeah. The mustache?
No, the long hair and the mustache, the handlebar mustache, that was not manic.
Oops, sorry.
That was when I was like in my right mind. I was like, this looks good.
You looked cool.
At the time, it worked.
It did work.
It was a different time.
It was a different time.
But I don't know. But I remember I was wearing like, I got real fit real fast being manic, which kind of can happen. Like your metabolism speeds up. I have all this energy.
Does your metabolism actually speed up?
It can. Yeah, I think so. I think so. Don't quote me on that. But I know that it seems like it because I was losing weight, because I wasn't eating so much and I wasn't sleeping, and I constantly had all of this energy.
There is a boundless supply of energy, which is kind of cool and fun.
So, yeah. So I remember I was wearing like kind of collared button up, like Oxford shirts, but like all the way unbuttoned. So with no t-shirt underneath.
Bare chested.
Bare chested.
Oh my God.
And I was wearing like cargo pants, but I'd roll them up so they were like shorts. And that was like my outfit. And I was wearing I was rocking sunglasses and just bouncing around. You know what I mean? So I'm in the Hindu temple. There's 100 people in there. I am certainly the only white person in there.
With their shirt open,
At this point, I don't think I had one of those open shirts.
Okay.
Because I do recall that I took my shirt off.
Right.
In the Hindu temple.
Right.
This is some crazy white people shit.
It is crazy white people shit. That's what I'm saying is like, it's not me saying like, oh, you're such a piece of shit white guy. It's mental illness within the framework of being white.
Yeah.
And mental illness while white is so funny and fear-free. And it's like just...
No, like I'm like, I think a combination of that and me being like a short little dude has like saved my life.
Yes.
Potentially.
Of course it has.
Anyway, That's a scary thing to think
Black people
about.
don't be running around with their shirts open
In
and
Hindu temples and staying alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. White insanity privilege.
Yeah.
Hey.
Also, hot white insane women are like considered damaged and beautiful and like so special. Like there's definitely like a layer of specialness applied to that.
Sure. I mean, like black people
like
are
Manic
more
Pixie
likely.
Dream
What's
Girl.
that?
The Manic Pixie Dream Girl.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just a mentally ill white woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But black people are more likely to get a diagnosis of schizoaffective disorder compared to bipolar.
Oh, really?
Or like a schizophrenic diagnosis compared to a bipolar disorder.
Interesting.
Yeah, like a nurse practitioner told me about that.
Really?
That they can get a more severe diagnosis more often.
Because we're scared of them.
Yeah.
And we're like, let's say give them the scariest disease because I'm scared of black people.
So there certainly is that. And sadly, I don't think it's inaccurate to say there's more stigma in communities of color
Of course.
about mental illness.
Yeah.
You know?
Internally and the
Yeah.
outside world.
Yeah, and
externally.
part of that is a product of survival mentality.
Yeah. Don't
know?
tell people your secrets
You
because
can't
secrets
show that
are
weakness,
vulnerabilities.
you know?
Yeah.
So I do like to think an aspect of my white insanity privilege
Mm-hmm.
is that, yeah, I can talk about it freely, publicly, more with
Mm-hmm.
like less. I can use that privilege to do that a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Likewise.
But anyway, I'm in there.
You're welcome, black people.
I was just gonna have that be implied.
Yeah. Sorry.
You know what I mean? I was gonna have that be implied.
I'm your call out friend.
Yeah,
Everyone's
yeah,
favorite
yeah.
call out friend. Little Miss Check Your Privilege over here.
Yeah.
Isn't it fun being rich and telling everyone to be a better person all the time?
You're amazing.
I'm a monster. Continue.
But anyway, so I'm in there, overwhelmed with emotion. I see the prominent Hindu woman dancing on this raised platform with her family.
She doing like the two hands kind of
they're
dance?
doing it.
Yeah, I fucking
It's
love
all
that
this
shit.
the beautiful Hindu stuff.
Yeah, they
you
really
know?
get into it with the hands.
Yeah.
It's very impressive.
Yeah. So it's me amongst these 100 people. I run to the base of the platform, take my shirt off.
Right. But you're in good shape at this point.
Oh, I'm fit.
Nice.
Go into a bridge pose.
Yep.
On all fours.
You've always been a yoga guy.
Yeah. Well, this was way before I got into yoga.
Yeah.
But I could do the bridge. Doing the bridge feels like
It's
all
like
of
an exorcism.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, this is crazy.
It's fully.
This is like exorcism. Like my head spins
But,
around.
yeah.
My head spins around 360.
Someone like had to go to therapy because they witnessed this.
Yeah, dude. Horrified. But I'm in the bridge pose.
Yeah.
It feels like all of the energy of the universe is flowing in and out of my body.
We're doing Alex Gray again.
Me and Alex Gray again. Yes.
Yeah.
It's like a total trip.
Yeah.
And I remember this guy comes up to me and he pulls on my arm and he goes, "You can't be here."
And fair
Enough.
sir.
But this is what I said. I go, "The birthday girl wants me to be here."
Yep.
Why not?
Why not?
Okay.
Why not? You
And-
believe that?
And I did believe that.
Yeah.
And then he went away. It worked. I don't know.
He's like, I don't get paid enough to deal with this fucking guy.
Yeah. He's like, maybe she does.
Maybe he's the entertainment.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then really the next thing I remember is the prominent Hindu woman invites me to sit down and eat dinner with her and her family. Very nice.
Right.
And then during dinner, I swear to God, she goes, "I believe that Krishna sent you to me as a gift for my 50th birthday."
Come on, lady.
Come on,
What
lady.
are we doing?
Oh, no. That is like insanity validated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mind blown to the
yeah.
moon.
What the fuck was she thinking?
Oh, my God.
But I do think, because I've seen you manic before and I've been manic before, and there's a charisma that comes with mania that's like
Sure.
palpable. And I do think that like life is so fucking boring sometimes that when you encounter a person that's like big ideas and they're like not really following social norms, sometimes you're like swept away by it.
Absolutely.
And you're like, you know what? Fuck yeah.
Absolutely. But I don't think that was what this woman was thinking.
You don't think so?
No, because I don't think I was like spreading big ideas. I was just like crying and going into a bridge pose with my shirt off and then eating dinner with her. I think that, you know, what I think that it was like my insanity was validated and maybe her insanity was validated a little bit. No offense, Hindu religion. Oh.
You know
but yeah. But back to your point of that, absolutely there is a charisma and involved with someone when they're manic, and they absolutely can be enthralling and enamoring to other people, for sure.
Because they're like, I've never felt this way. This person's just so like telling it like it is,
and so wired and so tapped in, and just so like on and intense and passionate. And it's like it can be this seductive thing, for sure.
Yeah, we were at a restaurant in Williamsburg 10 million years ago. Me and John are elder millennials who were there in the beginning of Williamsburg. I can't remember the name of this restaurant. It was in the south part of Williamsburg, but like we were getting food and you were certainly manic. And this like model-esque woman was sitting next to us, and you just kind of started engaging in conversation with her. And I was like, God damn it, John. You wooed her. Like by the end of it, she's like, I'll come to your show. And I was like, well, now he's never gonna. No lessons were fucking learned here.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. It is true. Like when I've been manic, I have been, I guess, more. What's the word I'm looking for?
You're enabled by other people?
No, I mean enabled, but I feel like I've been, well, maybe not more attractive to women, but attractive to different women.
Sure.
Than when than normal.
Yeah, I think
you know what I mean.
I am probably more. Yeah, I'm more attractive to people than when I'm a little. I am more in hypomania. I don't think I've ever. Maybe a few times I've.
Yeah.
I don't. It's hard to revise through my mind.
Yeah.
But yes, certainly charismatic people are attractive. So however you're landing at that end point, charisma is attractive. So I definitely think like,
and it's like sheer unbridled confidence.
Crazy. Well, I'm wondering what you think about this, because I often wonder this, like, I have very little social filter, and I don't know if that is like just my personality or part of bipolar disorder, but like I truly don't even realize that I'm being like socially inappropriate sometimes, and not in like a rude way, sometimes rude, but more just like, hey, that's pretty intense talk for someone you just met. And I wonder if that's bipolar disorder or just my personality, but I definitely don't like follow social conventions sometimes, and I'm not even realizing during it that it's like a little outside the box.
Well, I don't know. I think maybe, I mean, bipolar disorder is very idiosyncratic.
Yeah.
He's very unique to different people in different ways.
Yeah.
I think it might just be a you thing.
Sure. I think
but
I'm
also
oddball.
No, but I oftentimes, or sometimes more than probably the norm, can get into a more meaningful, less surface level conversation with people upon relatively recently meeting them. I think both of us are just pretty open people about that stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
You know? I don't want you to like reduce that to bipolar disorder.
Sure, yeah. And
to speak.
It's a quality of myself that I don't like feel shame about. It's just definitely something that I'm like, that's always been present for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about it. So anyways, so you are cut to dinner with this prominent Hindu leader.
Yeah, and then I remember that, so I'm like, okay, yeah, clearly I am the dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She told me.
Yeah.
And then I remember I was running out of gas driving home. I just left. I was like, okay, bye. I guess I don't know. That's what I remember. This was like, this was over 20 years ago.
Yeah. Wow.
So I remember driving back and almost being out of gas and having to borrow money from somebody who was at the pump next to me to get like a couple gallons.
The amount people will give you money is truly crazy.
And I just made it back.
Yeah.
But this was not the end of the episode. I would continue to be spun out.
How long is this roughly timeline from beginning
This
to
is
now?
like October of 2000,
Okay.
September, October of 2000. And then I think for this one, I was manic until like December or something
Oh,
like
that's
that.
so long.
Yeah, and then I was
Oh my
depressed.
God. Yeah, I know.
And it was awful.
There's a I'm forgetting his name, so I won't use.
But
his
that
name.
was not my longest episode. We'll get into that eventually.
Yeah,
But
well, that's the thing. There's a comedian in our community. I'm forgetting his name. Matt Pavick. Yes, right.
I mean, yeah.
Well, he's open about it.
Yeah. I recently had lunch with him.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Matt Pavich.
Pavich. Yeah,
Yeah.
I listened to his podcast with a friend, Brendan Sagalow. If you like listening to conversations about mental health, this is a good episode. But he was in a manic episode that I think lasted like over a year, perhaps.
I think it was like fueling it with drugs and alcohol and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which when I was doing that, I had one that lasted about 9 months once. Yeah.
I
Crazy.
mean, so disruptive
Yeah.
to your life and so
Yeah.
frightening to your friends and family. That's so long to just
Yeah,
like be unemployed and living just on the fucking fringe.
Yeah.
It's really
and Matt's a great guy, and we've been hanging out and getting coffee and talking about
He's
our
cool. I really
experiences
like
and
him,
stuff
yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
He came out to my solo show,
Oh, cool.
and just to speak to the point, if you're like, oh, do all bipolar people like think they're like, trying to save the world or whatever?
Sure.
He jokingly said after he saw my solo show, he's like, "You're trying to save the world." He's like, "I just thought I was a rapper."
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
So not
but,
every,
I
yeah.
mean, not to like say that, but it just made me think of it.
That is funny. Well,
But he's a great comic. I think he's doing really good work, and he's working on a short film
oh, cool.
about his experience with it. So
Yeah.
I
shout out to
mean,
Matt.
honestly, I think you agree with me on this. Like, mental illness is unfortunately a growing epidemic
Oh my
in
God.
our country and the
Everyone
world.
in this country is
Cray.
absolutely. I feel like we're because of our training in the trenches, we're doing okay, but it feels like a constant need to protect your sanity because this is an insane world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think it's all hands on deck to help each other out.
Yes.
So that's why I really want this episodic to be contributory to that.
Sure. Yeah. Check it out, people.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm back after this, my Hindu temple experience.
Sure.
And continue to spin out, bring the unhoused people into the apartment. We're listening to music together. We're looking at like different
music.
photographs of musicians. It was actually a really nice time. They were really nice guys.
I know.
But
Good
I
times
got
can
kicked
be
out of the
had.
apartment.
Yeah.
I kicked out of the apartment, rightly so.
Mhm.
And I remember the Delusions music, like you were just saying, it took on a very special meaning. Like I thought that the U2 album, 1999's U2 album, All That You Can't Leave Behind, was about me because it was like I had to leave behind this old version of my life because I was now this awakened messianic figure.
That's
and I
gotta
thought
be-
the song Beautiful Day was about me. Kind of cringe.
It is. I had the same relationship with music, and I think because I cycle rapidly, I now know if I'm biking and I'm listening to music and I'm like tearing up and like looking at the sun hitting a brick wall and thinking about the interconnectivity of all of it, it is really a beautiful, fun, like intense. It's like being on drugs. It's kind of awesome. As someone who can't do drugs, it's kind of a nice little cheat code. But the connection to music has always been present for sure.
Yeah.
And I do think if you're out there listening to music and bawling, being like, this is about my story, maybe look into it a little bit.
Yeah, but it's not though.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not about you.
Like specifically written for you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And a lot of people with psychosis experience that.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
You know
okay,
what I mean?
yeah.
You know what I mean? But what I like to say is it's like, okay, All That You Can't Leave Behind is not U2's worst album. But it's certainly not their
not
best.
Sunday Bloody Sunday.
It's not Sunday Bloody Sunday.
Yeah.
It's not War. It's not, Actune Baby. It's not, it's not from the 1980 to 1990 golden age.
How cringe, dude.
So it's kind of embarrassing. Another one too, like when I was depressed, but still psychotic, I guess, because I still thought it was about me.
That's a tough combo, depressed.
Well, I don't know if I was coming down, I was depressed, but I thought the music was written for me. So I don't know if I was still psychotic.
Yeah.
But I was still, something was off.
Yeah.
But like I thought the Jacob Dylan album, Jacob Dylan and the Wallflowers
Not even
album.
Bob?
Not even Bob.
Come on,
dude. His son.
Oh my God.
The album Breach. I thought those songs were for me. Were written for me.
It's still a good album.
You know what? I feel like it's an underrated album. It's not bad. There's some good songs in there, and Jacob has a nice voice.
Yeah.
But it's not Bob Dylan.
It's not Bob.
It's not Bob Dylan.
Not Tangled Up in Blue.
You know? Yeah. Yeah. Masters of War.
Come on. There's so many more obvious choices.
There's 1,000.
Hurricane?
We're just going to name one of three of a
let's just
bazillion Bob Dylan songs.
Yeah, let's just keep doing that.
The Lonesome Death of Hattie Carroll. That's a deep cut. Look into that one. Yeah.
In Nirvana, Frances Farmer will have her revenge.
There you go. Hard rains are gonna fall. Whatever.
Yeah.
All right, that's enough of that. All right. Oh, but you brought up drugs. I do want to say that, when I was in high school, because I was trying to be cool.
Sure.
So I did LSD.
That is, listen, the fear of LSD really has been overhyped, but I also do think we gotta make people a little wary of LSD because
I don't think 17-year-olds should be doing LSD. I don't think children should be dropping acid.
Your brain is not developed.
Your brain is not developed. You don't know who you are.
Yeah.
Like before you're gonna, completely disrupt reality, maybe have a grasp of what reality is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so basically I did not know that I had a genetic predisposition towards mood disorders. I didn't.
Is it in your family?
Yeah, my mother has some unipolar depression. My grandfather, we never heard anything about it, never heard about a diagnosis, but I do know that he was on lithium.
Sure.
Hello. Which is the gold standard treatment for bipolar 1 disorder.
And also, by the way, if you look at my studio right now, there is a creepy photo of a little girl on the wall over there. I don't know if you see, it's like an old-timey photo.
I see it.
That is my grandmother who was lobotomized in her adult life, and I gotta wonder if she had bipolar disorder and obviously was like a mentally ill woman, and they were like, well, we gotta throw you in the hatch.
Holy shit.
And fucking turn off your brain. But it definitely, because like you were saying, your grandfather, it was never discussed in the greatest generation. They're not talking about mental. Boomers barely fucking can handle it.
Yeah.
There's no way that these people were openly talking about it.
Yeah.
So that's a challenge because you can have it in your family and not know it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it wasn't explained to me that was a possibility. Maybe they didn't even know, or I don't know. But basically, it's quite possible that this LSD experimentation, and I had bad trips, multiple, brought to the forefront something that may or may not have remained dormant, this bipolar illness. So I don't know. I certainly don't think it helped anything.
No.
But because of that, because I did that, I felt like, I did this to myself. So I blamed myself for my bipolar disorder for many years, and that was the self-stigma, the self-loathing, the self-hate, the embarrassment, and just the disappointment with myself. Like, I ruined my own life.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to figure out how to get over it.
Yeah.
And I think that I finally did by being like, you know what? I was just a kid.
You know.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
And life happens. And also, I'm not defeated by this thing. I'm doing well. I'm thriving. I have a sense of purpose connected to it in trying to be helpful to other people about it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to forgive myself for this.
Of course. It's similar to addiction, I think, where stigma and shame prolong the healing, and it's a really damaging thing because it's not your fault, but had the stigma of the illness not been so strong, maybe you would have received proper treatment earlier, but like because it was like to be mentally ill in the 90s was just not it, you know, and in today's world, even with all the like open discussion, it just but yeah, like with addiction, admitting that you're like not under control of things, people find it frightening. I understand why you hid it away, and then being like, I took drugs and did this to myself, like a terrible feeling to bear, a burden, you know. It's deeply unfair.
I lived with that for a long time. It was very, very painful. But we should talk about drugs a little bit more.
Drugs. Don't do drugs, kids.
Wait until you're a little bit older than you think you should be to maybe do them, or not, or don't do them.
I would say 25, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just had such a messed up relationship with drugs. Like, for me, marijuana is very dangerous.
Yes.
Like, it can trigger manic episodes for me and psychotic episodes. And it's something that I never want to touch. But when I'm ramped up and getting manic, and when I am manic, it's all I want to do.
Yeah.
It's like a switch is flipped, and I just crave it.
You
like
want
crazy.
the ganja, man.
Wow.
Hey.
Why? Why? That was so bad, too.
Listen, if I'm on a podcast and I don't do a culturally inappropriate accent, what am I even doing?
You know what? That was such a bad rendition of a Jamaican accent that it's not even offensive.
It's not even a Jamaican accent.
It wasn't.
I shot the sheriff.
Yeah. That's just like... Unbelievable.
I'm an edgelord 90s comedian now. I've gone full circle. I'm not. I'm recovered from the woke mind virus, and I'm back to doing offensive accents from people of other races.
Well, I will say, you know what? Fair enough. The accents are offensive, but aren't they fun though?
There's a few that are really fun.
I know it's messed up, but they are fun.
You could be okay. You can do white people accents.
I think that if people with a different accent understood how fun it is for other people to do that accent.
Just let us do it. We won't elect Trump if you let us do the accent.
They would let us do it. Just out of sheer compassion for how much joy it brings.
Come on. White people need joy.
Yeah, dude.
But back to drugs before I took us on that tangent.
That was the weirdest tangent so far.
I'm an oddball. I'm a maverick. You don't even know where I'm coming from.
You are.
You'll never know where I'm coming from. And and I'll leave before you even know I'm gone.
Yeah.
But okay, yes, weed. I think weed is so much more dangerous, especially with the strength of weed now. I would even say if you're have no predilection for mental illness, I still think you got to be really careful with weed I don't think young people should be smoking weed. I don't. And I also want to talk about alcohol because the comorbidity, big word over here.
Yeah, it's huge with bipolar disorder and substance abuse.
It's
like 70 or 80% or something.
Yeah, it's so, and I'm a sober person and struggle with alcoholism. Been sober for over 10 years. Shout out to it. God,
That's beautiful.
God, I miss it sometimes. A cool beer would be good right about now.
Hey, the NAs, the non-alcoholic beers, have hit a new level.
Yes, they have.
They're so good. It's a great time to be sober.
Yeah, me and John have a nice little grapefruit Brooklyn brewery bev.
Ooh, a Brewdog grapefruit Elvis AF is the name of it.
Not bad.
Grapefruit with a little IPA action,
Not
enough, not too crazy. Oh, whatever.
Ooh, no, it's nice. It's nice. It's a much better environment to be sober in. But I was using alcohol, one, because I was addicted to alcohol and have alcoholism in my family, but also it helps you sleep. I think often people who are bipolar have substance abuse, but also use alcohol as a crutch to help them crash.
Yeah.
So I was certainly doing that.
Yeah.
And it does not help the depression. No. Alcohol gives regular ass neurotypical people depression.
Sure.
It is debilitating to be hungover and have bipolar depression.
Yeah.
The worst depression I've ever had in my life was those two intermingling. So be careful with alcohol. Also like the brain damage alcohol. This again, I can't believe I'm one of these sanctimonious sober people who is like do yoga and exercise and meditate and don't take any substances in your body. I think that's a very restrictive way to live your life. But I do think that you should be careful with alcohol. And I think alcohol is a lot more damaging than we've been told. And I think weed is a lot more dangerous for people who are predisposed to psychological issues. There's just too much evidence. I see people who are high and I'm like, you're out of your mind.
Yeah. I mean, like you're saying, it's gotten so strong. And also, weed is not harmless. It's addictive.
Yes.
I have friends that are potheads that do not want to have to smoke as much weed as they have to smoke.
Yes.
Just to be able to do their thing.
And it's, as soon as someone's like, I just got to do some to take the edge off.
Yeah.
That's, this is a bad word, but if it's junkie behavior, and I say that as someone who's behaved like a junkie, that is junkie behavior. It's not, even though it's from the earth, enough with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to get into talking about depression, the other pole of bipolar disorder.
Yeah.
But one thing I wanted to say was that after I got out of that episode, like,
how did you come down?
Well, this is what happened. I was still manic, but my friend Heather got in touch with my parents. They came and retrieved me.
Yeah.
They got me back from school, back home.
Nice.
And they brought me to a psychiatrist, which I agreed to go to.
That's
for whatever reason. Got the diagnosis of bipolar disorder. Was completely in denial of it.
Of course.
But I guess I started to, I was coming, I guess, I don't know if it ran its course because I don't think I was properly medicated, or I don't know if I was being medication compliant, but I wasn't manic anymore. I was coming down from being manic and falling into a depression.
Yeah.
And I was just completely in denial. I was like, this has to be anything else.
Denial is a river in Egypt. I'm sorry.
Why?
I'm sorry.
So unnecessary.
I know. You're having this
So
beautiful
unnecessary.
moment, and sorry. Continue.
I can't even tell if it's good podcasting
It's not.
or not.
It's great podcasting.
Okay, I'm all for it.
Yeah, continue.
Okay.
All right.
So I'm completely in denial.
A river,
So I said it again.
a river in Egypt.
I'm trying to re-get my train of thought.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be anything else besides chronic mental illness. I couldn't handle that.
Yeah.
So I started looking for anything else it could possibly be, right?
Yeah.
I find this out of print book.
Oh my God.
You ready?
Yeah.
Because bipolar disorder used to be called manic depression. Okay.
Yes.
So it's called manic depression, illness or awakening.
Yeah.
Let's go with awakening, baby.
Yeah.
Let's go with awakening.
Yeah.
And it talks about all this stuff like Eastern wisdom, the idea of like in the East, this is seen as like an evolution of consciousness, is seen like an awakening compared to in the West. It's seen as a chronic mental illness due to chemical imbalances in the brain. It started talking about Carl Jung.
Yeah.
And the
You
process.
sent me a few Carl Jung pods before.
For sure.
I'm willing to play ball with some of that.
Dude, he's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant, undeniably brilliant.
Yeah.
But he has this theory called about the process of individuation. And I was like, oh, that's what's happening to me. It's like when you become aware of what your true meaning is for living.
Sure.
And it's like it's something that is open to everybody as a possibility. It's their human birthright, but not everybody experiences it.
Oh, because we're special.
Because we're special. And I was like, oh, I'm undergoing the process of individuation.
Right. And your parents are like, please take the pill. Wait, how are your parents responding to this?
Actually, at the time, because it was also new, they were scared.
Yeah, sure.
You know,
Definitely.
and this was like doom and gloom shit.
Yeah,
you know,
for
this
sure.
was like, holy shit. You know, John has bipolar disorder. He's mentally ill. It's like, is he going to be able to function in the world? Is he going to be able to get a job? Is he going to be able to do anything? Sort of shit. And then there was like fear about the medication.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is like something. This is like it's like from my solo show. It's a line that I'm actually really proud. Like, so I go like, and it's the only time I ever saw my father cry.
Yeah.
You know, he was like, I don't want you to have to take those pills.
Yeah.
Now he's like, take those pills.
Yeah,
You know what
yeah,
I mean? Which
yeah,
is like, but at the time it was fucking rough. It's a horrifying time.
Yeah, yeah. And people still have this attitude towards psych meds, which is, I had this attitude about psych meds, not like this, like, I don't want other people to take. I've always been like, yeah, psych meds are, I grew up in an environment where like we treat people who are mentally ill. We use modern medicine. It's great. It's a good thing. But I think a lot of people have this feeling of like psych meds are going to like dim my sparkle or like make me into like a muted version of myself, which I do think there's certain psych meds that are not like, it's a trial and error.
Yes, I mean, that can happen.
Yeah.
But it doesn't always happen. And just if it happens, it doesn't mean you're never going to, be back to yourself.
Yeah.
It's going to change you forever. And it also doesn't mean that you can't find the right combination.
Yeah.
I think an issue with psych meds is that, unfortunately, they're administered by Big Pharma.
Right.
So I have such contempt for Big Pharma.
Yeah.
And how I truly believe they don't care if people live or die, that it's almost like, oh, but I have to take these ones, though.
Yeah, I know.
So I understand where people are coming from.
I do too.
But at the same time, if you can find the right combination, the right thing, it's like what I'm on now. I don't feel creatively reduced. I don't feel like my energy level is down. And I'm grateful for that because I can be stable and actually be consistently creative.
Yeah, 5 years is a long time. Is that the longest you've ever gone without an episode?
Since I've been diagnosed, yeah.
Right on, dude.
Yeah.
That's great.
And myself and my psychiatrist are optimistic I could stay well for the long haul. Why not?
Why not? Why not believe that?
Yeah.
You're on lithium, and I am on Lamictal, which is, if we're going to go with the framing that like of severity, I think Lamictal is a less serious, or it's just a different drug. It's a different class of drug, I would say.
Oh, I think this goes to the point that, even though they like to say that bipolar 1, bipolar 2 equally severe, I mean, I'm on lithium. I'm also on Lamictal.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. The dam is up and it's fortified by multiple.
And I'm on Abilify.
Yeah.
So this is, for me, what works for me is interesting. Is I'm on what's known as a subtherapeutic amount of lithium, meaning it's below the therapeutic range of amounts of blood, of lithium in my blood for it to be considered clinically therapeutic. But that's a way to treat people is to put them slightly below the therapeutic range as long as they're on other medications.
Oh, interesting.
So I'm also on lamotrigine, which is the generic of Lamictal, and Abilify, and I'm on relatively low amounts of all of these medications.
Right.
And they work in conjunction somehow
that is amazing.
to keep me stable.
Yeah.
But this is another thing that used to bother me is they don't really know how they work.
I know. And I'm like, this has changed my life and is miraculous. Don't know what's really happening there.
They don't know like the mechanisms that chemically interact with the brain in order to make them work. And they used to really bother me. I'm like, I don't even know how it works. But now I'm like, oh, but does it work though?
Right. Because
so I had to turn a corner on that as well.
No, I get that. I mean, I think, both me and my brother have struggled with mental illness in different ways our whole life. And like, I don't think she would mind me saying this. My parents, especially for my brother's struggles, like to your point about your parents and like meds and how do you manage your own emotions about having a child who's going to is going to go through hard stuff. I think my brother kind of took a similar path to you where he just like was in denial and kind of like traveled around and just lived kind of crazily and my parents worried all the time, and only now in his 40s is he on his medication and taking it consistently, and it's just like it's a completely different situation. Like our worry is greatly reduced. And similarly, I got the official diagnosis in my 30s. I was much better at like coping or handling or hiding what was going on with me, but like God, after I got on that medication and it started to take effect, I was like, oh my God, my life could have been so much fucking easier.
Yeah.
Because Lamictal for me treats the depression. I still go through hypomania for sure, and it affects my sleep, and it's not a perfect solution. But the depression that I used to deal with, it's nowhere near what it was before.
So you were more, it was more, if correct me if I'm wrong, but it was more of a, when you got your diagnosis, it was more of a relief
Of
to know
course.
what's going on compared to me just being like ashamed and in denial.
Yeah. I think with time, like this destigmatizing that had happened, knowing you for sure, like having people in my life who lived and spoke openly about it. And also at a certain point, it was like, this is an illness, you know, and it's undeniably an illness. So like for me, it's like, again, I was like raised with the idea that like psychological ailments should be treated. And I was like, well, let's treat it. That's great news.
Yeah.
I would rather know about an illness than treat it than just be toiling and not understanding what's happening. Because I didn't know. I really didn't know. It's like shocking now in retrospect that I didn't connect the fucking dots, but I just didn't know. I just thought everyone kind of lived in this intense way. And also when you live a creative life and you don't have, I mean, I had 9 to 5s also, but I've always kind of just like been engaging in a bunch of different stuff, kind of like jazzed up. And I think if you live an unconventional life, it can be perceived that you're just kind of like this really creative, intense person. But really what's happening is that your brain is just being like flooded with chemicals all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was happy to have answers. Truly. I didn't feel shitty about myself at all. Because I'm like, it's not my, that's how I was born.
Yeah.
What am I going to do?
I mean, I think that's great because it's just like, I wonder what things would be like if I didn't try to outrun it for so many years. If I kind of got with the program early on and because I wasn't properly medication compliant for many, many years.
Yeah.
But also, I don't even know if I would have been put on the right medication because I wasn't prescribed lithium until 14 years into my illness.
Really?
Yes, because
That's
it went out of
shocking.
favor as a treatment in the late 90s, early 2000s because they're worried about side effects because it can be rough on the kidneys and liver.
Yeah.
And you have to get blood drawn to test the levels and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So they were pushing all sorts of.
What is lithium, by the way? Is it a metal?
It's like a salt. It's like an element. It's the third element on the periodical table of elements. So this is part of it. Is it can't be patented. It can't be put on private label because it's an element. So it's very cheap.
Cool.
So it's possible that the pharmaceutical industry was marginalizing that and pushing these new wave mood stabilizers and atypical antipsychotics and all that sort of stuff. And then the thinking has come back around. They're like, oh no, lithium is the gold standard treatment for bipolar 1 disorder.
Yeah.
And we're going to prescribe it again to people.
Good.
Yeah. But I didn't get prescribed it until 14 years into my illness, which is crazy.
That's absolutely insane. Yeah.
I'm not saying I would have been medication compliant from day one, but it would have been nice not to
wreak havoc on your life.
Yeah, or to not be like, on and off all this other random shit.
Yeah. I mean, again, like to the point of like, I know young people now, Gen Z, which is, hopefully they continue to destigmatize. They're pretty open. I think every younger generation, I hope, becomes more and more open and progressive than the last, although we got some weird conservative shit bubbling up that I hate. But
Gen Z calls going to the psych ward a grippy sock vacation.
Hilarious. Yeah, they're funny about it.
So funny.
I enjoy them, and but I do know Gen Z people. A few come to mind now that have gotten that bipolar diagnosis and are like, it's wrong, and they're not on their meds. So I do think I wouldn't be so hard on yourself because I think it's an innately human thing.
Yeah.
to not want to be viewed as like deficient or ill or
Sure, and I'm like pursuing being a comedian, you know, so I was worried about the creativity aspect
course,
of it and
Same.
stuff like that. And at times I've been medicated and felt reduced by that, but also it's really hard to parse because I'd be in a depressed phase and I'd also be on the medication. I'm like, what's making me feel dull? Is it the depression?
Right.
Is it the medication? It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
And we should talk before we wrap up, we should talk about depression.
Oh yes, the Great Depression.
The Great Depression. So it's like, yeah, this will be fun, huh?
Hey, do you want me to do an accent to break it up a little bit?
You might have to.
Yeah.
But with bipolar disorder, it's, you know, what goes up must come down.
Uh-huh.
And the depressions, I find, I talk about it less than the manias because
Less sexy.
it's less ooh la la, it's less sexy, it's less funny after the fact and stuff. It's just fucking rough.
It is rough.
It's really, really painful.
Yeah.
I feel like a shell of my former self.
Yeah.
I feel exhausted.
Yeah.
I get convinced like, oh, this is who I am now.
Oh God.
And I'm never not going to be like this.
So good at doing that to you.
Also, I'm comforted by the idea that I can take my own life.
Suicidal ideation.
Suicidal ideation.
Yeah.
That's your brain tricking you.
I know.
Your depressed brain tricking you.
Incredible stuff. Shout out to, how did that happen? You know what I mean? Our minds are so interesting. It's so against the best interests of our survival. What happened there?
Yeah,
It's
I know.
a mystery to me. You with bipolar 1, are your depression bouts about the equal amount to the manic episodes, or is there like time wise, are they similar?
The most severe manic episodes that I've had, the ones that have lasted many months, have been followed by equally intense, or in a different way, but equally lengthwise depressions.
Ugh.
But sometimes I've had manic episodes that have been relatively shorter, and I really haven't always had the depression following it.
Oh, okay.
So it's not like a 1-to-1 for me.
Interesting.
But I have had severe, extended, full clinical depressions. Yeah.
And with clinical depression, I'm like, I don't know. I have such a, I grew up with such a type A, work obsessed, egotistical parent that even with what I would consider clinical depression, there was still this like desire to achieve. So I managed to somehow get myself to work or present. I can present normally, even when I'm in clinical depression. I can like get the necessary stuff done. That happens less as I age because I think my bounce back is just, shorter or harder. But depression compounded with alcohol is so fucked up, and it feels like there's like a weighted blanket on my entire being. Like I cannot get up, I can't clean myself really, I can't really like eat properly in any way. Like the psyching up that needs to happen to walk to the fridge is like insane.
Yeah.
We're just lying there being like, you gotta do it. You have to do it. And the sleep. When I don't know if I have a much kind of, I think, more turbulent relationship with sleep than you do. I'm not sure.
Maybe. Yeah, I think so. Definitely, actually.
I think because I rapid cycle my sleep.
You have the insomnia more.
Yeah, and it's gotten better, but I will go a few days without sleep, and then it'll pile up and I'll crash out, and then the depression might come with that sometimes, or sometimes it comes on its own. But if I am sleep deprived and depressed, it's like, and I feel bad for my partner. That's another difficult thing about having romantic relationships with bipolar disorder, is that like I don't really want anyone to see that. It's not particularly like sexy to be like, look at my wife lying in her own filth with love and like unable to perform basic tasks without a lot of like psyching out. I mean, I also am like pretty honest with people in my life. So I'll tell my husband or tell my friends, or my mom will call me and I'll be like, I just don't want to talk because I'm going to just be like sad. So I've definitely like carved out a space where I can be open with people about it. But my depression comes like probably once a month.
Yeah, I was gonna ask how frequent and when it started and stuff like that.
I've had depression, and while I was drinking, suicidal depression, most of probably like a quarter of a month. Probably it's hard to like quantify. And then as I stopped drinking, that improved. I think that's why I went without a diagnosis for so long, that my mental health improved when alcohol got taken out of the mix. I also had like low self-esteem and all these other things that were like playing into the depression, low self-worth. But now I think probably once a month or once every few weeks I will have like but now it's probably like a day or so.
Yeah.
Versus like a week, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fucking brutal because I want to do things. Like I'm like in my deepest, in my being, I'm a person that loves to go and do things. I'm very like passionate and excited. And then to feel like you physically are not capable of it is very frustrating, you know?
Absolutely. And I think sleep is so important.
I know.
So, I mean, we talked a lot about medication, but I think it's important to, at least from my perspective, explain that medication alone is not a silver bullet to treat bipolar disorder and treat mental illness. It's just one of a number of things that I do. So it's like what works for me is I'm on medication, I'm sober, I make sure to get proper sleep. These are just as important.
Yeah, I know.
I have a support system of friends and family, great psychiatrist, done a lot of great talk therapy, have my creative outlet, which is a way to process all of this stuff. And really, as trite as it might sound, if somebody's in a depression, they want to get out of depression, you got to exercise.
I know.
It's the last thing you want to do when you're depressed, but it is the thing that will get you out of the depression.
I know. Exercise is so goddamn important.
You know?
Exercise and like what you just described is routine.
Yeah.
All of these things together are built-in systems for yourself to keep on track. And I think that's one of a million reasons why COVID was so devastating to people with mental illness is that routine was thrown right out the fucking window.
Out the fucking window.
Yeah, and it's...
That was when I had my last episode, was during the pandemic, when you saved my life. Hey. That's, you know what, we're going to talk about that in another episode,
Sure,
aren't we?
Yeah.
You guys, November 2020.
Oh, my God.
Pandemic. Andrea comes to New York City to save me, who was manic, thinking that I was going to be assassinated.
By the Pope.
No.
Oh, excuse me.
By Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum.
Oh, man, I forgot. You were really on one with the World Economic Forum.
And I thought that me and Sinead O'Connor were working together.
And rest in peace, Sinead.
Rest in peace, Sinead. Love you.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's for another time.
Sure, yeah. Hey, man, happy to do it. Happy to...
That's a saga.
Yeah, it was.
We'll talk about that in the next episode.
It's a great, unfortunately great story. It's a terrible story in some ways. It's also really great and uplifting, and there's friendship, and there's all these parts to it. But you gotta do the routine. And I will say, I feel a little infantilized by needing the routine sometimes. And when people around me will gently be like, "Are you doing your things?" I'd be like.
But everybody needs a routine.
Yeah,
it's not for people that have a diagnosis.
You gotta
or
let
have
it go. Yeah.
Everybody. I mean, when I would go to Dharma Punks and see Josh Korda, the secular... No, he's great. He's amazing.
Thank God.
The secular Buddhist practitioner. He would talk about like Buddhism and how the Buddha would talk about the little routines that people have. We all have our routines, and we need these routines in our life in order to stay well. We do the same things to a certain extent every day.
Yeah.
And it's just the way it is.
It is the way it is.
You know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the advice that we're giving out for people with bipolar disorder can be applicable to all sorts of folks.
Sure. Yes. I mean, especially again, in our current climate.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this before. I'm like, And like, I think this also comes with age. I'm in my mid to late 30s. You're in your 40s.
Yeah.
I think there comes a time. I think all in at all walks of life, you should try your best to take care of yourself. You get a little bit more leeway in the 20s, and as you start to age, you got to take care of your body and you got to take care of your mind. And during these times where we have social media barraging our fucking minds, which I'm starting to take a real critical look. I mean, I have been taking a real critical look at that, but you know, we have widespread paranoia. We're basically living in an open air psych ward at this point, and everyone is trying their best to cope. So, like, fortify the fucking, you know, castle, my dudes, because this is not going to get any saner.
Absolutely.
I would say.
Yeah. I mean,
stockpile your meds.
Yeah,
RFK is going to start taking them away.
I mean, luckily for us in this podcast, mental illness is a growth industry in America.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. We have to do whatever we can to fortify ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, and we have to cultivate and create community.
Yeah.
And we really have to push through stigma.
Yeah.
Because that's what holds people back is
Sure.
this shame, this misunderstanding,
Yeah.
this fear, all of this stuff.
Yeah, people think crazy people are violent.
Well, you know what? We should really drill down on this at some point and talk about this, the idea of violence attached to different mental health disorders, because I was told a reality is that people who are experiencing mental illness are more likely subjected
to violence.
Yeah. Than they are purveyors of violence.
Yeah.
But that is true, but also we can't just completely ignore the possibility of violence being attached to these things. So that's why it's important for anybody, and because it's so hard to treat somebody when they're acutely manic and control them and get them to go to the hospital even if they really need to. That's why it's so important in between episodes to get everything as much as you can in place to stay well.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really the thing to do. Because, I mean, I've been in the throes of episodes. It's been very, very hard.
We physically fought. Thank God you're small. I fucking kicked your ass,
You
buddy.
did not. I had so much energy.
You did. You were using
we were like in like a jujitsu.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
It was hilarious.
I never feared you during that.
Yeah.
But I you know.
I know.
I know you, and I'd been there before, so I didn't fear you. But like a person.
But we should have a nuanced conversation about the violence, because I think people just think like, oh, it's crazy, it's going to be violent. That's really not.
It's not
how
true.
It manifests.
It's
just not true.
But I do think.
You know?
I do think destigmatization is huge, and I also think talking about when it is violent and what you do about that is also super important, because it's like, to say that that never happens is just like not in touch with reality. And so there needs to be understanding and like, how do we de-escalate safely for everybody? Currently, the police's solution to it is just to like shoot them in the head.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so for the people trying to de-escalate, it's safer. For the person who needs to be de-escalated, it's safer. Like, tackling this with using facts and arming yourself with compassion and understanding will lead to a better outcome.
Absolutely.
It's not just because I'm woo-woo. I'm like, we can do better than this and should be doing better than this. But
and something to just remember, so like this great organization, NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, the largest grassroots mental health advocacy organization in the country, driven by people with lived experience with a mental health condition who are in recovery and are actively helping the community. They like to say that 1 in every 5 people deal with a mental health issue.
At this point, it's probably like 3.
Something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they like to say, and the other 4 are friends or family.
Yeah.
So we're all affected.
For sure. Yeah.
And I think that we have a real opportunity to push through a lot of this stigma, and because it's like, you know what?
Be the messiah for the mentally ill.
No.
Yeah.
No. No, but just at the very least, with Episodic, we can show that bipolar disorder is not a death sentence.
Yeah.
That you can get to the other side of it, and you can not only survive, but you can really thrive and do well. And
sure.
and it doesn't have to be your whole life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I mean, I tell people, I'm like you, I'm quite open with it, especially with like in social interactions. I try to like, if someone is like, oh, she's so great, she's bipolar, I'll be like, I'm bipolar. You know what I mean? Like every once in a while, I will use it as an opportunity, as like a teaching tool, or like hey, you're actually saying something pretty harmful. But I also think like being someone who is stable and you know, trying my best to live well, I think it's a good example for people to see that that's completely possible.
Absolutely. I think the conversations and just showing an example of somebody living well with bipolar, that helps bust stigma in itself.
I agree. We're such heroes, dude.
Ah!
All right, John. Do we do plugs? No, who cares?
No plugs.
Fuck plugs. This isn't a way to be famous, although
exploiting mental illness for personal profit is my log line.
no.
I mean,
Any final words?
I thought I just said them.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. See you later, man.
Oh, come on. Why?
Because it's funny.